When I was a kid, my dad, my brother, and I went to get our Christmas tree. We headed out in my dad's red work truck, and I remember that it was quite cluttered in that truck. The floor had a bunch of dirty used coffee cups, and one of us was sitting in that middle seat in the front of the pickup truck. But off we went to the Christmas tree farm to cut down our Christmas tree. We picked out a great tree for our house and a smaller one for my grandparents. Cut it down and we loaded them into the back of the truck. From there, we headed to my grandparents to drop off their tree. Now, I don't remember exactly what my brother and I were up to, but I am certain that we were bickering. And I'm certain that we were probably swatting at each other, and I'm sure that none of the kids here have ever done that in the car with each other, ever. But I can guarantee we were driving my father bonkers. So he told us we had a job to do. We were to keep an eye on the Christmas trees in the back of the truck to make sure that they didn't fall out. So we had a very important job. In our familiar Christmas story, the characters also had a job to do. Mary and Joseph have their job, and they're heading from Nazareth to Bethlehem to be registered. They'd been told by the governor that they needed to do this, and so off they went. Not riding on a donkey. We didn't hear about a donkey. But the shepherds, they had a job to do too. They were guarding their sheep. That's what shepherds do, right? Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when we have a job to do, we get so preoccupied with our job and what we need to be doing that we kind of lose track of everything else going on around us. We can get kind of laser focused on what's at hand and what's on our to-do list that we miss all the subtle things trying to get our attention all around us. Now, in this story, Mary could not get too focused on registering because her baby decided it was time to enter the world, and Jesus is born. That's right, yeah. Keep going, yeah. You can't ignore a birth that's happening either in you or to someone around you, right? Like, a baby does not allow you to ignore it. And the shepherds, they could not be so preoccupied with their sheep because they had angels getting their attention. Now, first, we learn that an angel came and they were afraid. I probably would be a little afraid too if an angel appeared out of nowhere. I'm standing in the field. I'd probably be scared. And they probably are thinking, we better focus in on our sheep here because something is weird going on, but I'm just going to focus in on the sheep. And then we hear suddenly a great assembly of the heavenly forces appeared with the angel. Now, if you don't know what a great assembly of the heavenly forces is, this is what the author Hannah Brencher, just how she describes it. We're not talking about a half a dozen angels showing up on the stage of a Christmas pageant. A host is an army. An assembly is an army. Imagine the troops of angels storming the sky, all singing out praises to God. Imagine angels for as far as your earthly eyes can see. Imagine them filling the earth with their praises. Imagine their heavenly voices meeting your human ears. So you might be tempted to ignore one angel, but the assembly of angels, you can't ignore that. So that day in the truck with my brother and I, being the precocious kids that we were, we kept saying, "Oh, a tree fell out. Oh, a tree fell out." The first time I saw my dad glance, there were 2 trees. He stopped looking. From there on, we laughed, We kept saying a tree fell out, and he kept ignoring us. But those shepherds, they could not ignore a sky full of angels. And they quickly left to find Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus lying in a manger. And we learn that they are amazed. When we were about a half mile from my grandparents' house, their tree did fall out of the truck. Of course, I don't have to tell you, my dad did not believe us. Because we'd already said a tree fell out probably 12 or 15 times by now, and there were always 2 trees in the back of the truck. So we kept on driving, and we pulled into my grandparents' house. And my dad got out and was like, "Why didn't you tell me there was only 1 tree?" We did! He promptly got back into the truck. He drove back to where we told him it fell out, and somebody, in the meantime, had scooped up the Christmas tree. All too often, we might miss out on the big event. We think we're not going to miss out, but we might miss out on the heavenly forces attempting to get our attention. We miss God sort of nudging at us. We get so stuck doing our jobs, we get stuck working our ways through the to-do list that we miss the amazing things happening right before our very eyes. And when this happens, we might need to remember the words of the angel. Don't be afraid. I bring good news. We get to actively look for the good news. We get to actively work to not be afraid. And we need to remember those other words that said there is peace among those whom God favors. Now, lest we think that God favors only the select few of us who are sitting here, no, God favors everyone, and God's peace is for everyone. Now, if we listened to our story all the way to the end, we hear that the shepherds return home. The shepherds did do this sort of pattern where they did their work, they noticed, they weren't afraid, and then they praised God. They worked to embrace peace. Now, my poor grandparents, that year that their tree fell out, just because the tree was gone did not mean that Christmas got canceled. We went to the local hardware store and we grabbed another one and took it back to my grandparents, complete with the whole story about how their tree, the first tree, had fallen out of the truck. Friends, Christmas isn't canceled when we're too busy to notice. Christmas isn't canceled if you're finding yourself terrified. Christmas isn't canceled if you're just going about doing your job. Christmas isn't canceled if you're feeling lost. Because, friends, God will find a way to burst in. As Hannah Brencher said, but I believe there are moments when heaven kisses the earth and we feel the perfect love of God surrounding us. The moments may be brief, but they exist in community, in prayers, in phone calls and letters, in wisdom, in pockets of peace. Friends, this Christmas, may we notice God bursting in, the perfect love of God all around us. It might not come as a host of angels in the sky, or a baby being born, or even a tree falling out of a truck. But God will surely find a way to burst in, if only we pay attention, if only we remember to not be afraid. If only we know and work for peace. So may it be so. Merry Christmas. Amen.